Let me start with a simple question. How many of you have ever failed at something? Really, your hand isn't raised. Either you're superhuman or you haven't tried hard enough yet. So today I want to talk about something we all face, but few of us like to admit: failure. We treat it like a stop sign, when in reality it's often just a detour pointing us towards something better. The truth is, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every champion, every inventor, every leader you admire has one thing in common: they weren't afraid to fall because they knew how to rise. So let's flip the script. Let's stop fearing failure and start trying for success with all the courage, clarity, and commitment it demands. Failure. The very word has the power to unsettle us, to shake our confidence, and to challenge our sense of self-worth. We've been conditioned from a young age to avoid it, to fear it, and to associate it with shame or defeat. But what if we've been looking at failure through the wrong lens? What if, instead of treating it as a final verdict, we began to see it as a vital chapter in our journey? The truth is, failure is not a loss, it's a lesson, a rich source of insight that holds the potential to transform us far more than success ever could. When we fail, we are forced to confront our limitations, to examine our decisions, and to rethink our strategies. This process of self-examination is not pleasant, but it is powerful. Failure humbles us. It removes the illusion of perfection and forces us to acknowledge that we are works in progress. It demands honesty, an honest look at what went wrong, what we missed, and how we can improve. This honesty is a foundation for growth because you cannot fix what you refuse to face. While success often breeds complacency, failure inspires innovation. It pushes us to ask different questions, to seek new solutions, and to try again with more wisdom than before. Consider the story of Thomas Edison. He famously said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways it won't work." Edison's countless attempts to invent the electric light bulb didn't discourage him. They educated him. Each failure brought him closer to the answer. Without those failed attempts, he would not have found success. His story is not unique. History is filled with examples of great minds who embraced failure as a part of the process. J.K. Rowling's manuscript for Harry Potter was rejected by multiple publishers before becoming a global phenomenon. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team before becoming one of the greatest athletes of all time. What separates them from others is not their talent alone, it's their perspective on failure. They understood that setbacks were not dead ends, but detours. In academic settings, failure is often seen as the ultimate punishment. Students dread poor grades not because of what they signify about learning, but because of what they signal about success. Yet many of the most profound educational experiences come from getting something wrong. A student who fails a test and takes the time to understand their mistakes learns more than the one who guesses all the right answers without grasping the material. Failure encourages deeper engagement. It turns passive learning into active understanding. When we fail, we are given an opportunity to ask why, to search for meaning, and to apply that insight moving forward. The fear of failure, however, can be paralyzing. It prevents many from trying in the first place. People avoid starting a business, pursuing a passion, or taking risks in relationships because they are afraid it might not work out. This fear becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. By avoiding failure, we also avoid growth. We stay safe but stagnant. The irony is that in trying to avoid failure, we often guarantee it. Because not trying at all is the surest path to regret. If we can shift our mindset and accept that failure is part of the learning process, we become more willing to step out of our comfort zones. And outside of that comfort zone is where all real progress happens. Even in the corporate world, some of the most successful companies have been built on lessons from failure. Entrepreneurs often talk about failing fast, a philosophy that values quick experimentation and rapid learning from mistakes. They understand that in a constantly changing market, rigid perfectionism is a liability. Flexibility, adaptability, and resilience matter more. Failure, when embraced with the right mindset, sharpens these qualities. It teaches problem solving, it builds character, it cultivates a sense of grit and perseverance that no easy success could ever provide. On the personal level, failure often leads to clarity. When a relationship ends, a job opportunity slips away, or a plan collapses, we are often left questioning everything. But in that questioning lies the seed of truth. We start to understand what really matters to us, what we're truly passionate about, and what kind of life we want to live. Failure strips away the noise. It peels back the layers of what we think we should do and reveals what we are meant to do. It is in our lowest moments that we often gain the clearest insight into who we are. There is also a deeper emotional intelligence that comes from experiencing failure. It teaches empathy. Someone who has stumbled, who has felt the sting of defeat, is more likely to understand and support others who are struggling. Failure reminds us of our shared humanity. It levels the playing field and brings humility into our interactions. In a world that often glorifies winners, it's important to remember that the path to any meaningful achievement is paved with setbacks. Everyone who falls, not everyone chooses to get up, learn, and try again. Culturally, we need to reframe the narrative around failure. Instead of branding it as weakness, we should recognize it as courage. It takes bravery to put yourself out there, knowing that you might fail. It takes resilience to keep going after you do. Celebrating only the outcomes ignores the process, and the process is where the magic happens. True success is not just about reaching a goal. It's about who you become on the journey to that goal. And failure is often the most transformative part of that journey. In education, in business, in art, in relationships, failure plays a critical role. It tests our resolve. It strengthens our will. It asks us to recommit to what we care about. And sometimes it redirects us entirely. There are times when failure is a sign that we're chasing the wrong thing, that our path needs adjusting, or that we have more to learn before we can move forward. These are hard truths, but necessary ones. Ignoring them does us no favors. Facing them with openness is what leads to wisdom. If you look at the biographies of people who changed the world, innovators, leaders, creatives, you'll find a recurring theme. They failed often and dramatically, but each failure was a stepping stone. They didn't let failure define them. Instead, they used it to refine themselves. That's the key difference. It's not whether you fail, it's how you respond to it. Some people collapse under the weight of disappointment. Others stand back up, take the lesson, and move on stronger. The choice is always ours. Failure also teaches patience. In a world obsessed with instant results, failure reminds us that real mastery takes time. You don't become a skilled musician, a trusted leader, or a visionary thinker overnight. It takes hours of practice, repeated setbacks, and consistent effort. Failure is the test of your dedication. If you can face it and continue forward, you're already succeeding in ways that matter. We also need to recognize that not all failures are dramatic. Sometimes failure is quiet. It's the missed opportunity, the unspoken word, the silent regret. These moments are just as important. They give us pause. They encourage us to act more intentionally next time. They build a kind of emotional depth that success alone cannot provide. By paying attention to these small failures, we learn to live with more awareness, compassion, and courage. There is no blueprint that guarantees success, but if there's one thing we can count on, it's that failure will visit all of us at some point. How we receive it, whether with bitterness or with curiosity, determines what we gain from it. The most successful people are not those who avoided failure, but those who welcomed its lessons. They understand that every failure contains valuable feedback. It tells us what doesn't work, where we need to grow, and how we can evolve. In that sense, failure is not the end of the road. It's a signpost pointing us toward a better path. When we begin to embrace this mindset, we find freedom. Freedom from perfectionism, from the pressure to get it right the first time, from the fear of judgment. We become more willing to take risks, to be bold, and to pursue the things that truly matter to us. And in doing so, we often surprise ourselves. We discover strengths we didn't know we had. We find joy in the struggle. We build a resilience that no success story can replicate on its own. We become more than achievers. We become learners, creators, doers. Failure does not mean you are not good enough. It means you are still growing. It means you had the courage to try. And trying, despite the possibility of failure, is what leads to greatness. In every fall, there is the potential to rise higher. In every mistake, there is the possibility of wisdom. And in every failure, there is the seed of a future success waiting to bloom. Certainly, here's the expanded version of success comes to those who dare to try, not just dream. Developed into a detailed 1,500-word passage without a conclusion or ending sentences. Underscore, 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 underscore. I'm excited. Actually, dreams have a history. They remain only a vision until we take action. Dreams are powerful. They spark our imaginations, fuel our passions, and often serve as the driving force behind the most remarkable achievements in history. For which dreams are powerful. They remain only a vision until we take action. But there are dreams are powerful, they oppressions, and often serve as destructions, a very severe and ultimately a terrible impossible from early on. Remember that. Dreams are the seeds but it is through daring to try, to act, to step beyond our comfort zones that we transform those dreams into reality. Every successful person, company, or movement we admire began with a dream. But the difference between the dreamers who succeed and those who don't lies not in the vision itself, but in the willingness to take that first step toward making it real. It is not enough to dream about success. You must have the courage to chase it. The simple truth is that success comes to those who dare to try, to those who are bold enough to put in the work, to take risks, and to face the inevitable challenges that come with pursuing a dream. Success is not reserved for the perfect, nor for those who have the best ideas. It belongs to those who act. The road to success is not linear, and it is never a smooth path. It is a winding trail filled with obstacles, detours, and moments of doubt. But those who dare to try understand that these challenges are not barriers, they are opportunities. They are the tests that strengthen resolve and refine skills. The act of trying forces us to grow. It forces us to learn what works, what doesn't. The truth is, no amount of dreaming can prepare us for the unpredictable nature of life. Dreams might give us a direction, but it is through action that we develop the ability to navigate the terrain of reality. Think of all the people who have achieved great things. Think of the entrepreneurs who built empires from scratch, the inventors who changed the way we live, or the leaders who inspired movements that shifted the course of history. They didn't succeed because they had the best ideas or the most refined plans. They succeeded because they acted. They moved beyond their dreams, beyond the fantasy of what could be, and took tangible steps toward making it a reality. They learned, they failed, and they grew, but they never stopped trying. The key to success is not in waiting for the perfect moment, the ideal conditions, or the right resources. Those things may never come. Success is born from seizing the opportunities that exist right now, even if they are imperfect, incomplete, or intimidating. This is where many people falter. They wait. They wait for the right time, the right circumstances, or the right knowledge. They dream, but they never take action. They talk about their ideas, but they never take that first step. The truth is that the right time will never come. The perfect plan will never appear. It's only through trying, through testing ideas in the real world, that we begin to see what works. Without that first move, nothing will change. Consider the example of famous inventors like Alexander Graham Bell or Steve Jobs. They didn't wait for technology to catch up with their ideas. They didn't wait until they had the perfect blueprint for success. They acted on their vision, despite the uncertainty, despite the lack of resources, and despite the doubt. Bell famously struggled to perfect the telephone, facing numerous technical and financial hurdles along the way, but he kept trying. Jobs didn't have all the pieces when he founded Apple. The technology wasn't fully developed, the market wasn't ready, and he faced countless setbacks. But he dared to try. He kept working toward his dream, even when the odds seemed stacked against him. And through persistence, through an unwavering commitment to taking action, they succeeded in changing the world. Daring to try also means embracing failure as a necessary part of the process. Success is not achieved by avoiding failure. In fact, it is failure that often paves the way for success. Each misstep, each setback, and each mistake contains valuable lessons. Those who only dream and never act will never know what they are capable of overcoming. The act of trying teaches resilience. It shows you that failure is not a sign to give up, but rather a sign to adjust, adapt, and keep moving forward. The only true failure is in not trying at all. When you try, you grow. When you act, you refine your approach. And when you fail, you learn. It is easy to sit back and fantasize about the future. We all have dreams of where we want to be, whether it's a career goal, a personal achievement, or a grand life ambition. But the reality is that without action, those dreams will remain just that, dreams. Dreaming about success is the first step, but it is the courage to try that sets successful people apart. Many of us have the ability to dream. The difference between those who live out their dreams and those who remain stuck in a cycle of hoping and wishing lies in the willingness to take action. When we dare to try, we also expose ourselves to the possibility of success in unexpected places. There's a certain magic in the act of trying. Even if you don't immediately succeed, you often uncover new opportunities, new directions, and new paths you might not have considered otherwise. Sometimes the path to success is not what you envisioned in the beginning. The only way to discover that path is through action. Trying allows us to pivot, to shift our approach, and to uncover the solutions that exist outside the confines of our original plan. Many of the most successful entrepreneurs didn't set out to create the companies they did. They acted on a dream, adjusted along the way, and ultimately stumbled upon something greater than they imagined. One of the most powerful aspects of daring to try is that it empowers you to take ownership of your destiny. Many people sit idly, waiting for life to hand them success on a silver platter. But those who succeed understand that success is earned, not given. Success comes to those who take control of their actions and decisions. It comes to those who wake up every day with a sense of purpose and determination to move toward their goals. Success doesn't just happen. It is the result of hard work, perseverance, and a relentless drive to make something happen, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Moreover, the act of trying shifts your mindset. When you start taking action, your perspective changes. You stop looking at obstacles as reasons to quit and start seeing them as challenges to be overcome. You stop waiting for someone to give you permission to succeed and start taking ownership of your journey. It's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you rise. Trying pushes you to become more resourceful, to develop new skills, and to grow stronger in the face of adversity. It teaches you that success is not an overnight phenomenon, but a journey that unfolds one step at a time. Trying also leads to innovation. It is through action that we begin to explore the uncharted territories of our potential. Those who dare to try are the ones who push the boundaries, who look beyond the ordinary and challenge the status quo. They question, they explore, and they create. The act of trying sparks creativity, encourages new ideas, new solutions, and new ways of thinking. It's through action that we find the courage to test our assumptions and discover better ways to achieve our goals. In a world filled with distractions, doubts, and fears, daring to try is an act of bravery. It is far easier to dream than to act. Far easier to imagine success than to work toward it. But those who are willing to take that first step, to push through the discomfort, to embrace uncertainty and risk, are the ones who ultimately succeed. Success isn't reserved for the chosen few or the naturally gifted. It's available to those who are bold enough to act, to try, and to continue trying despite the obstacles in their way. If you want success, don't just dream about it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take that first step. Try. And then keep trying. Success will follow those who are willing to do the work, face the challenges, and never stop striving toward their dreams. It is in the act of trying, not just in the dream itself, that success is found.